Welcome back to another video, guys, and this one we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be taking a look at some passive skills, but these are specifically Anoint-Only passive skills, which means they're introduced as part of the Blight League in patch 3.8, and you may have seen some of these sprinkled around the passive tree if you use Path of Building. They're just kind of scattered around the place. But for a lot of these passives, this is the only way to obtain them, with a few of them having some unique item access or inclusion into other mechanics. And anointments are essentially just enchantments that you can apply to amulets using different oils, and these enchantments grant the anointed passive skill, and there's also some unique Blight items which can have passive skill anointments too. These are the Breath Stealer gloves, the Spore Guard body armor, the Stampede and Replica Stampede boots. Also the 3 cowls based on each elemental resistance. These can actually have up to 2 enchantments, which means they can have 2 labyrinth enchantments, or 2 anointments, or a mix of both. And of course, anointments can also be applied to rings and maps, but those don't grant passive skills. Now, the most prominent Anoint-Only passive skill in the game right now is of course Vengeant Cascade. This is a passive skill which makes valid projectiles from attack skills return to you, or in some cases it makes the projectiles return to the firing point or the originating location. And I've already talked a bunch about this one. I even made a dedicated video for it back closer to the start of Crucible League, because this passive skill was altered a bit in Crucible League to simplify its projectile returning mechanic, and as a result it's now incredibly strong, and it's pretty much almost always a best in slot anoint for many projectile based attack builds, and the main catalyst for the huge upswing in bow builds this league. I talked about how I felt this passive skill will probably see some nerfs in 3.22, since the doubling of damage from a single passive skill point for a lot of these builds is probably just a little bit over the top. I do hope that they bring the bow skills up though at a baseline level to compensate for any nerf to Vengeant Cascade, because I don't really feel like these builds are generally overpowered even with this notable considered. But there are a few other interesting Anoint-Only passive skills, so let's take a look at some of them. Beginning with Aspect of Stone. This passive skill grants 20% chance to avoid physical damage from hits. This is actually quite a considerable amount of damage avoidance from a single stat, and physical damage avoidance specifically is very rare. You can get up to 10% of the same stat on Redeemer shields or quivers, and the Replica Mistwall shield can roll up to 15% chance to avoid physical damage from hits while phasing. The Elusive buff grants 15% chance to avoid all damage from hits, and can be scaled with modifiers to Elusive effect. But do be aware that the Elusive buff is applied at full potency and drains over time at a rate of 20% effectiveness per second, until it reaches 0, at which point it will be removed, and you can't reapply it until it's gone. If you're able to stack enough physical damage avoidance, you could consider using Aspect of the Crab. This Aspect ability is a reservation skill which is granted by the Kraken's Carapace body armor, or by beast crafting an affix onto gear. Aspect of the Crab reserves 25% of mana to grant crab barriers at a rate of 1 every 0.5 seconds, up to 10 stacks, or 15 with Kraken's Carapace. Each stack provides 2% additional physical damage reduction, so by default you'll have 20% additional physical damage reduction at max stacks. When you take a hit of physical damage, the PDR will work to reduce the damage you take, and all stacks will then be removed. However, the synergy with physical damage avoidance is that even though the damage is avoided, it still counts as a hit. But for Aspect of the Crab stacks to be removed, the hit must deal physical damage to you, and therefore you'll be able to achieve maximum crab stacks more of the time, as you'll be avoiding some of the incoming hits of physical damage, which is also very useful against physical damage over time like Corrupted Blood, as the additional physical damage reduction will also reduce the damage you take from physical dots. Pair this avoidance with a decent amount of evasion and cap spell suppression, and you'll be extremely sturdy against physical hits. Alright, let's take a look at another Anoint-Only passive skill, and that's Hardened Scars. Now this passive skill actually got a giant indirect buff in 3.21. Hardened Scars grants 15% increased life recovery from flasks, and 25% less damage over time taken during the effect of any life flask. Prior to 3.21, the only great use of this passive skill was a clever balance of recovery with Petrified Blood and Righteous Fire, so that the life gained from your life flask isn't enough on its own to out-heal the self-damage from Righteous Fire, and with this setup, you'd constantly stay at 50% health even with the life flask active. This would mean that you could benefit permanently from the buff of this passive skill because your life flask would always be active. Now in 3.21, the Pathfinder's Master Surgeon was changed so that life flasks are not removed when unreserved life is reached, granting an enduring type effect for life flasks. And combined with this passive skill, you can benefit from the 25% less damage over time taken permanently, as your life flask will be active all the time. This is incredibly powerful for mapping, especially when damage over time can be very, very dangerous, but it's also great for bosses with high damage abilities which deal damage over time, like the Shaper's Beam. This is yet another win for Pathfinders. How can they keep getting away with it? Alright, now let's take a look at Persistence. This passive skill grants a flat damage taken modifier for physical damage, and this is an incredibly rare stat because it's not specific to attack hits. Persistence grants -10 physical damage taken from hits, and -1 physical damage taken from hits per level. This will grant -105 physical damage taken from hits on a level 95 character, which is a very large flat modifier to damage taken. Now you may have noticed that there's not many flat damage taken modifiers available in the game, and most of them present seemingly trivial amounts, such as the -10 to 15 physical damage taken from attack hits on the Bramblejack unique body armor. This is largely due to balance, because flat amounts of damage taken modifiers could get out of hand quite quickly when stacked together. But how good is Persistence? Well, its main use case will be in a mapping environment, where it can shine against smaller physical hits. When combined with a decent amount of armor, you'll be able to massively reduce incoming physical damage from hits. For example, if a level 95 character with 20,000 armor took a hit of 2,000 physical damage, they take about 660 damage after armor has applied its physical damage reduction. If they had Persistence, they'd take 555 damage, which is the equivalent of about 16% less damage taken. But it's even more effective against a much smaller hit. For example, let's say the same character at level 95 with 20,000 armor took a hit of 1,000 physical damage. They take 200 damage after armor has applied its physical damage reduction, but with Persistence they'd only take 95 damage, an equivalent of about 52.5% less damage taken. Against very small physical hits, you can potentially take no damage with the combination of armor and Persistence, so it can be quite valuable, especially while mapping, but against much larger hits or boss abilities, it becomes quite insignificant and not very valuable at all. And that's it for the really interesting Anoint-Only passives. I wanted to do a bit of a video to shine a light on these, as some people may not even know they exist, and I think Hardened Scars in particular will start to see a lot of use. That one is very strong. Are you guys making use of any of these or any of the other Anoint-Only passive skills? Do let me know by commenting below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. And a big thank you goes out to my channel members. Your support is very much appreciated. You can join them and support the growth of this channel from as little as 99p per month. Click the join button below to find out more about that. Thank you very much for watching this video. And as always, stay tuned and stay safe.